Hey guys, it's Edie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you're all doing well, and in today's video we are going to be attempting to finish a series I'm in the middle of. So I have chosen 3 books that are part of series. This one's the second book in a series, third book in a different series, and a second book in a series, and I'm going to be attempting to read them in this reading vlog, because the first and the last one here, they are the quite recent releases, but I don't think they're the last in the series. I know this one definitely is, and I'm not sure about the third one, so let me just show you the books. So the first book I chose is Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole May. That's what I'm going to say. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, so if I do ever pronounce anyone's names or anything, I'm sorry. But this is the book I've chosen. This is the second book in the series. I don't know what it's called, but the first book is called Assistant to the Villain. I've already started reading this book. I'm already on chapter 31, page 134, because I've been reading it since the 1st of the month, and it's currently now the 5th of September. Not September, October, and I haven't been very well, so I haven't really wanted to pick up a camera and record, and I've been really busy working, so I just haven't had time. So I'm starting the reading vlog now, even though I was meant to start it like 4 days ago. But anyway, let's ignore that. I can't really say what's gone on in this book so far because it just spoils the first books, but I'm having a good time. The second book I've chosen is The Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. This is the third book in the Knock 'em Out series, and I liked the first one. I gave it 5 stars. I can't really remember much about the second one. Can't remember what I gave it. I think I might have given it 4. I'm not really sure. I think it was alright. But I'm quite excited to read this one because I know this follows Sloane, and the snippets you get of Sloane in the other books, I love her already, and I can't wait to read her book. All of the books in these series are quite chunky for like a romance book. It is almost 600 pages. It's like 580 pages, and I'm like, wow. But some romance books, you're like, oh yeah, that needed that many pages. Some of them, like, you could wrap this up so much quicker, but I guess we'll see with this one. And the third book we're going to be reading in this is The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore. And this is like a fall themed sort of one, because I've read, what's the other one called? Let me go get it. This is the first one in that series. It's The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. And I remember I read this last year around this sort of time, and it's like a seasonal sort of book, and I really enjoyed it. I don't really remember much about it, but I think I gave it 4 stars, and I just love the cover because it's got like holographic leaves on it. The first one doesn't, which is kind of sad, but this one does. So I'm really excited to read it and get into that autumn fall sort of vibe. I know the next book in this series is a Christmas book, and I assume it's coming out this year before Christmas, and I'm really excited to get into that because I just love any book that's, especially like romance books that are like centered around like the seasons or things like that, because it really gets you into the seasons. So those are the 3 books I've chosen. I'm going to carry on reading Apprentice to the Villain, and if I do have any more thoughts, any more feelings, I will get back to you guys. So it's the next day, and I have finished Apprentice to the Villain, and I had a really good time. I don't think it's as good as the first book, I'm gonna say, because I absolutely loved the first book. It had me giggling, crying, everything. But I don't think this was quite up to that. And it did also take me like what date is it? It's the 6th, so it took me like 6 days to read. But I didn't read on one of the 3rd of October because that's when Heartstopper came out, and I just watched that after I got home from work. I binged it in one evening. This did not quite give me the same feeling as the first book. It gave me that feeling, but not quite as good as it was the first book. And I feel like I can't really tell you much about this book because then it would spoil the first book. And if you haven't read that, I don't really want to spoil it because it is really good. I love the tension you get between the villain and Evie. I feel like it's so good. So like angsty. And I think they only like kissed in the first book and held hands and things like that and done nothing more. And it took them like, it was over like 50% before they even kissed again. So that tension, the build up to it was so good. And I forgot how much I loved how short these chapters are. Some of them are like 1 page long, 5 pages long. There's not very many long chapters, and I really like that because it keeps me more intrigued to the book. This series is the type of series that's not very high like stake fantasy, so if you want a little bit more of a fun fantasy book in between those higher sort of stakes, higher fantasy books, this is a series for you because it is fun, it's witty, it does make you feel sad. It is still a really good like plot, this whole series. Like I don't want to say anything to spoil it. Like the twist at the end, it almost had me like crying, and then it also had me like in shock. And I'm like, I don't know if I can wait till the next book comes out, because I didn't know originally if this series is just going to be a duet. I think it might just be a trilogy now. It does say at the epilogue, this is not a spoiler, it says the last 2 lines are the end until we meet again. So I assume there's going to be another book, and I assume it's just going to be a trilogy, but I'm not sure, it could be more. But I'm very excited to see what happens next, because it doesn't leave you off a major cliffhanger, but it sets you up for the next book, if that makes sense. So there's stuff that they still need to figure out and do to make everything alright. Because in the first book of this series, Evie is more of the villain's assistant. But in this one, if you can't tell by their name, she becomes more of like the apprentice to him, and she takes a more, I don't know what the right word is. I guess she takes more of a role in some of the things he does, and she helps him more, I guess you could say, and she's learning from him as well. I think I'm settling on this book probably being 4.5 stars, because this is just not quite that 5-star feeling, but I still had such a good time while reading it. I think because I loved the first one so much and I love the characters, it made me like love this even more. So if you have not read this series and you want a bit more of like a lower state fantasy, not what, because this series doesn't have like a glossary or anything like that, it's a bit more easier to understand, a bit more simpler, and it's quite different from a lot of other fantasies that I've read. So if you want something a bit of change, you should read this series. The first book is the first book is Assistant to the Villain, and this is the second book. And I believe the third book is probably going to come out next year, I reckon, sometime. I'm not 100% sure because this one has just come out recently. So this is the next book I'm going to pick up. I'm going to pick Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. This is the third book in the Knock 'Em Out series, and it's the final book in that series. I think, did it come out this year or end of last year? I think it did. And this is like a small town romance. I think it's like a second chance, childhood friends sort of thing. That's all I really know about it. And I know Sloane from the first 2 books works in the library in the small town. I can't remember who the MMC of this book is. Lucian. I don't remember much about him, but he might be a billionaire. I can't really remember. But I'm quite excited to read this. I'm not going to pick this up straight away because I've got to edit a video that's getting posted tomorrow. I'm really late on editing it, but I've got to get that done. And then I should start reading this. It shouldn't take me more than a couple of hours to edit the video, but that's what I've got to do, then I'll pick this up. So probably once I've read the first 50 to 100 pages of this book, I'll get back to you. So it's quite a bit later now in the evening. I'm on chapter 7. In the book, physical copy, it's on 85, but then on my Kindle it's like 107. So I thought I'd just do a sort of wrap up of what this book is going on, what's happening so far in this book. So this happens in the first chapter, so it's not really major spoiler, but basically Sloane's dad like passes away, and is having the funeral for her dad. And there's this one person, Lucian, who they used to be, I guess, really good friends when they were like teenagers, but something has happened since then and they do not get along. So they're like childhood friends to enemies to lovers, I think it said somewhere. So that's what's going on so far. And at the funeral, Lucian went up to Sloane's mother, and I can't remember exactly what they exchanged some words to each other, and Sloane was like, what's going on? And her mother has now left town to go back to where she moved, and she's forced like Sloane and Lucian to sit down and have a meal, and Sloane's trying to figure out what's happened or what's been going on between her parents and Lucian, because there's been hints of things, but nothing's actually been said what's happened. So Sloane, I think she's in her mid to late 30s. I'm not really 100% sure because I don't think it's said her age, but she really wants to start her family, and because like she's getting on in age and she's starting to get less like fertile, I guess. She really wants to do that like sooner so that she can have her own kids. So that's what she really wants in life. And her friends have kind of just like set her up with like a dating profile to help her get out there to meet someone, to have this family she's always dreamed of with. And Lucian and Sloane, they are always bickering, and like their bickering is like so good. It has me like smiling. I'm like, ooh, But anyway, I don't really have much else to say about this book because this book is so thick and I've literally only read that much of it and there's still this much left. I'm enjoying this book. I'm having a good time so far, but what I remember about the last book in this series and this book is exactly the same. The chapters are so long, they're like 20 pages almost, and I'm like, why do they need to be this so long? I think chapters max 15 pages is alright, but when it's like 20 plus, I'm like, come on, girl, this is too long. But it's still good. But because there's long chapters, sometimes I'm like halfway through a chapter, I'm getting a bit bored. Not bored, but distracted, if that makes sense. I don't really know, but that's my thoughts and feelings so far. But I don't have much because I haven't actually read that much of the book. I don't know if I'm gonna film another update tonight because I've got to stay up a bit later than I usually would because tomorrow I'm on lates for work, and I have been reading this on my Kindle because it is on Kindle Unlimited, and I feel like it's making me read it a bit quicker than if I was to read it in the physical book, just because how thick the physical book is. It can be quite intimidating sometimes when books are this size. So I'm going to get my Kindle stand and my page turner, lay in bed, read it on my Kindle and drink my hot chocolate. That's like my perfect night in. So it's the next day and I did read a bit more last night. I got up to chapter 9, which is on the Kindle, it's page 144. It's 20% in, but then in the physical book it is only like page 118. I don't know if I said this about this book. I think I might have, but I can't really remember. But the chapters are just so long. That's the only problem I'm having so far with it. But I'm really enjoying the dynamic between Lucian and Sloane. Their little like arguments they have. I just want to find out what happens between them. And I've still got this much left. I've read this much. Still got this much. So hopefully I can get a bit more reading done today. It just depends whether they need me for work and if they're going to call me and be like, can you come and do this shift? And I have to say yes. So it just depends if they need me today. If not, I should have the whole day to read. If I do get called, I might only be able to get like 50 pages or so read, maybe 100, I don't know. I have to wait and see. So I am going to carry on reading it, and if I do have any more thoughts, any more feelings, I'll get back to you guys. So it's been a while since I last updated. It's been like a couple of days because that day that I was the last clips I filmed, I did end up being called into work to work a shift, so I didn't end up filming anymore that day or reading anymore that day. The next day I was working, and just the past, I think it's been 2 days since I filmed, I can't really remember, but I just haven't had any time to film. I've had time to read but not to film it, so I can't remember what I was on, what chapter, what page, I don't know. But on my Kindle I'm on page 33 and it's chapter 33, and it's page 487, and in the physical book that is page 416. It says I'm 70% of the way through. How many hours do I have left roughly? It says I've got 3.5 hours roughly reading left. So I should be able to read it today. I am currently at home, and if they need me they can call me today. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully I can finish it. If not, I don't know. I should finish it tomorrow because I've got days off tomorrow. And these are my new, I don't know if this is going to focus, but these are my new little Kindle stickers. And this pop socket, so cute. My thoughts and feelings are really still the same about it, but you found out what's happened in the past, like Lucian's like teenage years and like childhood, what happened in that, and how Sloane like played an effect in it, and why they didn't like each other at the beginning of the book. They still kind of, I'd say they like each other more now, but they still have that tension between them from what happened when they were teenagers. And finding out what happened, it was so heartbreaking. And I was in like public while I was reading it. I was like, try not to cry. And I didn't cry, but I could have cried. If I was at home, I probably would have. That's all I have about it. I was saying this is a decent book, but it's not a favourite. I think it's probably sitting at 3.75 because I don't think it's quite 4 stars. I don't know why. It might change, I don't know, but let's just get back to reading. So I finished this book now. I could take a bookmark out of it. And I did have a good time reading it. I did enjoy the plot of it, and I found it really interesting and intriguing. Slowly finding out what happened between like Lucian and Salome when they were like teenagers and what all went down, and then that led to them being like always argumentative with each other as adults. It just broke my heart what happened to them as teenagers, and like just some of the things you find out breaks my heart. I really enjoyed like the tension and the bickering between them at the beginning, especially because you could just feel it so well, and I do love a bit of tension between the two main characters. Lucian does something to like prove to Salome that not to prove he wants to be with her, but just to prove, I guess, he's more serious and is actually going to be committed in their relationship. And what he does, oh my god, he like, I don't want to say much because then if you know this book it will spoil it, or if you started reading it, but he does something to prove what she's always wanted in life, so she can have that, if that makes sense. It was like the sweetest moment when he took her and when they were going to go have it done, and she figured it out and found out. It was adorable. I really do like Lucy Score's writing style, because I've read the other two books. The first book in the series I gave 5 stars, the second book I gave it 4 stars or 4 something, I can't really remember, and then this book I gave this a 4 stars. I have. But one thing I will say about these books, the whole series, they are chunky, and I feel like they are a tiny bit too long, and they could be cut down a tiny bit, but they were still decent, they were still good. So the next book I'm going to pick up is The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore. I've read the first one in this series. I don't know what the series is called, but the first book I think is called like The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I read it last like autumn sort of time, I think, when it first came out, and I did really enjoy it. It's like the perfect sort of time for that sort of book. It's that sort of season to read that sort of book, and this is sort of similar vibes where it's like it's definitely the cover, it looks more of like a autumn fall sort of book, so I chose to read this next. I don't know much about it, but it's got to be something to do with a bookstore, and anything to do with bookstores or book people who read, as you will probably know, I am a sucker for those sort of books, so I'm quite excited to see this and get more into like the autumn sort of feeling. When I have my first thoughts and feelings, I'll get back to you guys. So it's the next day, I've already been out, I've already done something this morning, and it's not even, what is the time? It's not even 12 o'clock and I'm already home and I've been shopping. But anyway, that's not relevant to this. I am now on chapter 9, page 85, and I am quite enjoying it. It's not giving autumn vibes. It kind of is, but not at the same time, because basically it's coming to the end of like summer, which kind of correlates to this sort of time of year as well a bit. Basically, Hazel is she's just about to turn 30 in like a couple of months, and she's just wanting to have fun before she turns 30, because she feels like hasn't done everything she should have done before she turns 30. So Noah decides to help out, and Hazel one day Hazel is like I think she's some sort of like the manager of the bookstore or something along the lines of that, and one day she looks over at the romance section and see one of the books out of place, so she goes over to put it back in the right place, and before she notices that one of the corners is like turned over, and on that page something is highlighted, and she's like, oh, that's weird. And then Noah walks in, and she kind of I believe she does tell him in that moment about it, and then he's like, oh, I'll help you have the summer of fun, blah blah blah. And then she just keeps on finding these little highlighted bits in books, and that's kind of where I'm up to now. I'm finding that bit quite interesting, and I remember I really do like the author's writing, how simple it is, how easy to follow along. But if you are looking for dual POV, this book is not dual POV, it's told from like third person, so you don't really get their in-depth thoughts and feelings and really delve into their brain, if that makes sense, when you do compared to when it's like in first person. So if that makes you not want to read it as much, I'd say maybe give it a go, because this book is quite good so far. If I do have any more thoughts, any more feelings reading this book, I will get back to you guys. So it's many hours later in the evening and I have finished this, and I did have such a good time while reading it. I feel like this is a perfect sort of book to transition from— oh, I've realised this still got the tag on it. Anyway, let's ignore that. I'll take that up in a minute, but this is the perfect transitioning book from like summer to autumn, fall, whatever you call it from where you're from. Because it's like coming to the end of summer and Hazel is wanting to do more fun things before she turns 30. And there becomes this scavenger hunt sort of thing that gets put in books, blah blah blah. I did kind of explain it to you already. I felt like this was really paced because I read it really quickly and it was so easy to follow. I don't really have much more else to say about it because it was a good book, but I don't think it is quite a 4 stars. But I'd still 100% recommend reading this. Because one thing, it only bothered me once when I can't remember when it bothered me throughout the story, but Hazel is just about to turn 30. She's like a month or 2 away from turning 30. Noah is 25, so she's like 5 years younger. And I don't really like romance books when the guy's younger. Maybe by a year it's not so bad, but when it's like 5 years, it's a bit, I don't know, it just puts me off a bit. That's the only one thing I did not really particularly enjoy about this book, but I feel like everything else brought it up, made it better. And the thing he does at the end, Noah, to like tell Hazel his like feelings, it's the way every probably girl who loves to read wishes that they could get told, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. I feel like if you loved like small town romance sort of vibes, this is a small town romance. The first book in this series, I believe it's called the Dreamland Harbour series, something like that, because I think that's what the town is called that it's set in. But the first one is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and then it's the Cinnamon Bun Store. And then the next one, that's literally just come out, so I'm now not up to date on this series, but anyway, it's like the Christmas Tree Farm or something along the lines of that. And there's a little snippet of it in the back of this book, but I didn't read it because I'm like, I don't like doing that because I feel like if I read it, I want to read that book straight away and not pick up another book where, I don't know, I don't really know what I'm trying to say. My brain, it's not wiring right at the moment. This book does have spice in it, and the spice, I did quite enjoy the spice. Because I feel like there's a fine line of doing spice right and not doing it right. Well, for me personally, other people might be different, but I really did enjoy it in this book because I felt like it wasn't too much in your face. Because some books, I don't mind when it's all the time, but when it's taken away from the story, the plot, and the plot is just spice, that's not particularly for me. I like something that has a bit of a plot to it. And so from that, I gave this book a 3.75. So these are the 3 books I read in the reading vlog. So I'll just go over them, a quick overview of what I rated them. So the first one was Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mehra. I never know how to pronounce that name, so I'm sorry I mess it up, but I gave this 4.5. The second book picked up was Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score, and I gave this 4 stars. And then finally I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore. I believe that's how you say it. Again, I'm sorry. My dyslexic brain can't pronounce things sometimes, but anyway, I gave this 3.75. So that is the end of the reading vlog. I hope you did enjoy. If you want me to do another one of these where I try and finish series or continue series I'm in the middle of, just put it in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!